Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, well, some commanders out there, including some incredibly popular ones and some very powerful ones and maybe some overpowered ones, just got some massive upgrades thanks to some brand new spoilers. If you haven't seen those spoilers, check out my episode out on them. That being said, let's jump into it. So first up, the card I'm going to be talking about, and then I'll talk about the commanders that absolutely will love this card, Green Goblin Nemesis. Now, this one is actually going to be a commander itself, of course. It is a legendary creature. That being said, I already talked about, how you'd build around it on an episode earlier, again, that spoiler episode, so check that out. But on this episode, let's talk about what it does and what commanders are going to love it. A 3/3 Goblin Human Villain for 4 mana in Rakdos, flying whenever you discard a non-land card, put a counter on target Goblin you control. Whenever you discard a land card, create a tapped treasure token. So yes, obviously it can fit into certain Goblin decks out there, and we will jump into that. But more so, it's like, hey, you got some, discard shenanigans, because, yeah, discarding non-land cards is nice to, well, grow this, of course, because it is a Goblin, it is evasive, and it's going to hit incredibly hard at a certain point. But also, and perhaps more importantly, whenever you're discarding land cards now, you're not just losing out on that land, you are gaining value. You are getting a tapped treasure token. It is tapped, so it slows it down. That being said, though, you still get to build up that mass amounts of treasures, and there are certain commanders out there that are going to absolutely love this. The first one that came to my mind was Nekosar the Mind Razor. Yeah, kind of like any kind of a Wheels commander that is in Rakdos colors plus, or just Rakdos colors, should definitely be considering this one, because when you wheel again, yeah, you're like, okay, everyone, hey, discard your hand, draw cards. Now you're like, okay, everyone, discard your hand, I'll make 7 treasures, and then everyone draw a card, yay! So you're like, okay, cool, I get to just now ramp at the same time, temporary ramp, sure, with treasures, but I get to ramp at the exact same time that I am, well, going through and doing what I actually want to do with this deck anyways, which is just wheel. Nekosar, again, I should probably read this one. 2/4 Zombie Wizard for 5 mana in Grixis. Give each player's draw a step, draw a neutral card. Whenever opponent just draws a card, 1 damage to that player. So this one does punish opponents for drawing cards, which is great. But of course, also gives you extra card advantage. And yeah, you are encouraged to wheel again and again and again and again and again when you're doing so. Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I wheeled twice on this turn. I discarded 14 cards. All right, go ahead, next turn. On your next turn, you've got 14 extra mana to work with. You're gonna win. You're gonna win. Kind of along the same lines of that one, Sauron the Dark Lord. I should say certain Sauron decks can be built in a lot of different ways. 7/6 Avatar that costs 6 mana in Grixis. Board sacrifice a legendary artifact or legendary creature. Opponent casts a spell on Mass Orcs 1. Arm you control deals combination to a player. The ring tempts you. Whenever the ring tempts you, discard your hand, draw 4 cards. So being able to actually just discard your hand, draw 4, again, that is great. Again, it's like a wheel on a commander. There's other ways to have the ring tempt you too. So yeah, there's a lot of repeatable wheel effects essentially with this one. And by, again, making all of that mana to have, and also when you're discarding non-lands too, making your, Green Goblin hit hard can obviously be great. Next up, Anya Falconrat, this one is a huge one. Not like a wheel commander, but like a commander that is just a repeatable kind of merfolk looter on its own. And this is the type of commander where, again, it's not going to be for every single Anya deck, essentially, but yeah, Green Goblin can work incredible wonders for the right Anya decks out there. 1/3 Vampire for 3 mana in Rakdos. Haste, tap, discard a card, draw a card. Or discard a card if it's got Madness, untap it. So, yeah, you're going to be just going through your deck a ton, and at a certain point, you're like, okay, I discarded those Madness things, that's great, cool, all right, I got so many counters on my Green Goblin, it can hit for an absurd amount to take players out. And then you're like, okay, you know what, actually, yeah, I still just want to discard this land, sure, so I can, draw a card as well, replace that, and, oh, okay, cool, yeah, okay, I get treasure with that, that's great, I can utilize that next turn. And of course, you got some untap effects with this one as well, so definitely keep that in mind, but yeah, you can build up treasures, you can build up a lot of counters on that. And of course, finally, Wart, Boggart Ante. I believe this is the second most popular commander. Kranko is absurdly popular, so it's tough to get that big, but still. 3/3 Goblin Shaman with Fear for 4 mana in Rakdos. Beginning your upkeep, you may return target Goblin card from your graveyard to your hand. Wart actually, obviously, really encourages you to get Goblins into your graveyard here, there, or everywhere, so you can just, get them back. Awesome. Good for you. So being able to essentially, again, wheel, again, it's not a downside to get rid of your goblins or, of course, your lands. You get to actually, grow your Green Goblin. And, of course, with, again, your Green Goblin's effect, you can put those counters on any goblins. If this is Goblin Tribal, obviously, okay, any of my goblins, great. You could even make Wart into a one-shot KO at a certain point if you really want to. And, of course, those treasures are going to be quite juicy. So, yeah, overall, a really cool card. There's only so many ways to get benefits off of discarding cards. We're starting to get a little more of them. We just got like that one from Aether Drift, like the artifact for 3 that like benefits you in a couple different ways. It's not really all that repeatable though, obviously, just on that turn. This one is repeatable, kind of like a Surly Badgersaur-ish, and again, having extra copies of that is going to be huge for the right decks out there. So again, when it comes to wheel decks, discard decks, and yes, even Goblin decks, definitely a card to consider, definitely a big upgrade for those decks for the right fit. Next up, though, Sensational Spider-Man. Again, I already talked about this can be a really cool commander and how to build around it. Check out that spoiler episode. That being said, in the 99, yeah, it can definitely be a powerhouse as well, an amazing upgrade. A 3/3 Spider-Human Hero, because that's a thing, for 3 mana in Azorius. Whenever it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls, put a stun counter on it. Then you remove up to 3 stun counters from among all permanents. Draw cards equal to the number of stun counters removed this way. So this one is a way to keep building up resources, essentially, in a way, in the form of stun counters, while denying your opponents of their resources, actually. You know, okay, yeah, you got your creature. All right, let's just take that out, all right. Make it more easy for my creatures to get through as well. Tap those creatures down, make it so that you're not attacking with those too, and of course, at a certain point, get value off of that as well. Draw some cards. Now, that being said, of course, you can draw even more cards. There's plenty of ways to really take advantage of this. The first commander that came to my mind, though, that's definitely going to consider this one, is Hilda of the Icy Crown. Most definitely. 3/4 Human Warlock that costs 4 mana Azorius. However, you tap an untapped creature opponent controls, you may pay 1 when you do. Choose 1, make a 4/4, put a counter each creature you control, scry to draw a card. Again, this is a repeat effect from Spider-Man that we get on attack to be able to just, oh, tap something down. Okay, cool. Now I get to pay 1. Also, keep that creature tapped down, which is quite nice. And of course, at a certain point, yeah, you're going to be getting card advantage off of that as well. And Hilda decks as well are going to have other stun counter kind of things in there, most likely as well. So do keep that in mind. That being said, of course, when it comes to stun counters, yeah, Attracts a Praetor's Voice. Any kind of like a proliferate commander might want to consider this one as well, just because, oh, okay, cool, yeah, stun counters are nice to get out there to keep proliferating. I should probably read this one. 4/4 Angel that costs 4 mana in different colors, everything but red, flying vigilance, set touch, lifelink, beam ransom, proliferate. So yeah, of course, this proliferate effect, which is getting any number of counters on players and permanents and then giving them an extra one essentially. And then of course a lot of other proliferate effects too. Being able to just, oh, okay, I get a stun counter out. Oh, all of a sudden now that's 2 stun counters. Now that's 3 stun counters. Now that's 4 stun counters. That creature's never untapping, and neither are the other creatures that you're getting more stun counters on. You've got ways to move around counters as well, most likely too. That being said, yeah, all of a sudden you can draw an absurd amount of cards thanks to Spider-Man throughout the game. Like, again, like 3 cards on every single one of your combats, which is absolutely great. Next up, though, Derevi. Yeah, depending on the Derevi deck. Derevi can definitely be a very stacksy commander. You can build a little more like non-over-the-top stacks, but yeah, being able to just kind of use resource denial with, Spider-Man, this can be great for this too. A 2/3 Bird Wizard flying for 3 mana in Bant. You can also cheat and play from the command zone. Lovely. Whenever it enters the battlefield of a creature you control deals combat to a player, you may tap, run, tap, target permanent. By doing so, essentially, you are, well, again, just making it so it's easier for Spider-Man to get through on attack. Spider-Man's making it easy for other things to get through on attack, which is great. And again, by stunning things, you are keeping them down as well. So again, kind of board control. Yeah, those stun counters can be great. Another one to consider, though, Crow's Defense Contractor. Being able to keep on a shield counter target creature opponent controls. Or you put 1 or more counters on a creature you don't control, tap that creature and goad it. Gain scramble to the next turn. If you're really heavy into like the I need the goad to actually force my opponents to attack each other, yeah, you might not consider this one. But if you're just like, okay, like I really care about just getting a lot of counters out there and controlling things, yeah, definitely a great way to do so, because getting those counters on them can be a great way to, yeah, sure, goad in other ways, but also with Spider-Man, a repeat effect to shut down certain creatures, especially late game with this one, where like you don't want the creatures necessarily to be goaded at you potentially, but also again, repeat card advantage throughout the game, so definitely want to consider for the right Crows build. Yeah, Sensational Spider-Man, again, going to be a very good commander, a very solid commander, but of course, when it comes to it in the 99, definitely some, well, commanders out there that would love this as an upgrade. Next up, let's take a break from some of the legends and talk about Grasping Tentacles, a really cool new card that, yeah, certain commanders out there, again, there's only so many ways to, well, let's read what this one does. Source for 3 mana in Dimir. Target opponent mills 8 cards and may put an artifact card from that player's graveyard on the battlefield under your control. So being able to steal things in one way or another, there's only so many ways to do that, and steal /self-mill, or self-mill, I should say regular mill, it's an opponent, being able to actually just do that, there are certain commanders that really want this type of a card and get a lot of value out of it. So yeah, when you only have like certain kinds of mechanics that come up, or certain types of cards only come up every now and then, when a new one comes up, it's like, oh, yeah, that commander, definitely going to want to consider it. When it comes to commanders, for a great upgrade consideration, the captain, of course, needs to be considered. A 3/6 that says, well, horrors you control have menace. Whenever a horror you control deals combat to a player, that player mills that many cards. At the beginning of your end step, choose target artifact or creature card in opponent's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn, put it in the battlefield under your control. So again, this one is all about milling your opponents anyways, getting things in the graveyard, so you've got more things to actually pick from, so you're less likely to whiff with Grasping Tentacles, obviously, if you already know that they have an artifact in the graveyard, so you will get that. That being said, it also plays into that second part again. At the end step, something that was put there, milling 8, you're bound to hit something, most likely either a creature or an artifact that you can cheat into play for yourself. So yeah, being able to steal things and mill can be great for the captain. Next up, speaking of stealing things, send triplets, loves to steal things. A 3/3 human wizard for 5 mana in Esper. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. This turn, that player can't play spells or activate abilities. Plays with their hand revealed. Play cards from the player's hand this turn. Yeah, shutting players down is great. And also, sometimes you shut them down so much maybe that they don't have good things in their hand. You're like, oh, well, I get your hand, but there's not really any great things in it. So you know what? Let's just steal something from the top of your library now. So I'm going to mill you and steal things too. So again, including other theft effects can be great for send triplets as well. Definitely one to consider. Grasping Tentacles, a really cool card in that, yeah, I mean, it can actually kind of, in a way, not pay for itself entirely. I mean, it definitely could. If you hit like a giant mana rock like a Guild Lotus, absolutely. But still, if you just hit like, oh, a Soul Ring, great, cool, yeah, almost paid for itself too. But of course, there's some like game-ending artifacts you could end up hitting as well. Some massive ones. So mana rocks, giant artifacts. If you've got a mill deck, I mean, even like a Phoenix deck, consider it too. Or like a theft deck, or one that cares about this, that, or the other, or both, absolutely consider this as an upgrade. Moving on, we've got Venom, Deadly Devourer. Again, a very cool commander. If you want to hear about how I'd build around it, check out that spoiler episode. That being said, awesome in the 99 as well. A 4/4 symbiote villain for 4 mana in Golgari. Vigilance, Menace, pay 3, exile target creature card from a graveyard. When you do put X counters on target symbiote, where X is the exile card's toughness. So this is a, well, creature that can become absolutely massive in no time. And also, again, kind of be like graveyard hate in a way, too. Where like, oh, your opponent's playing, like, you know, self-mill, or they're playing, like, reanimation. Thank you for those giant, juicy creatures. Or even if you're just playing, like, I don't know, like edict effects, if you're playing a lot of ways to get things into the graveyard, absolutely. But there are certain commanders out there that are like, yes, please, you're amazing. Absolutely, I need you in the deck. I mean, one that definitely comes to mind is the Gitrog Ravenous Ride. Quite the fun commander. A 6/5 frog that has triple and haste for 5 mana in Golgari. Whenever it deals combat to your player, you may sacrifice a creature that's saddled it this turn. If you do, draw X cards, put X lands from your hand on the battlefield, tap Rexy, sacrifice creature's power, saddle 1. Yet the first swing doesn't just win you the game right then and there. The second one most definitely will, because yeah, you get something massive out, of course. Something good, something decently sized. You know, like a stompy creature doesn't cost all that much. And all of a sudden you swing with it, you know, you saddle, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, all right. Yeah, I just draw like 8 cards, awesome. I'll put some lands into play, get me way ahead of my opponents. But then, of course, you've got some juicy meal for Venom, being able to take advantage of that creature's toughness, which, again, typically those go hand in hand when it comes to power, toughness, stompy kind of decks. Like a Gigantosaurus, awesome, 10 power, 10 toughness, cool. All of a sudden, being able to say, oh, okay, let's just get that back out of the graveyard, get some counters on Venom, and now all of a sudden, this is that large, +4, and then let's saddle it again with Venom this time. Or yeah, exile even more things to then saddle with Venom, with like 20 plus power. So yeah, you can do some absolutely massive things with this, a game-ending swing. Or how about a commander like Hogak Arisen Necropolis, an 8/8 avatar for, well, 7 mana, but you can't spend mana to cast a spell. Convoke Delve, though, is how you get it out. And of course, you can cast it out of your graveyard, and it's got Trample. So being able to say, okay, I've got my commander in my graveyard, I can utilize it to actually, well, yeah, get it back out, but at some point you might not be able to, and then you could just say, you know what, Venom? let's turn the tables a little bit. Now I'm going to utilize you as my heavy hitter right now. My commander will go back to the command zone, which is completely fine because I'll be able to recast it later. But for now, Venom is going to be the one that packs the punch for me. Again, a 12-12 Vigilance Menace. Quite fun to be had from there. Mr. Orfeo the Boulder, one of my favorite decks, actually. My Hotline Fling deck, absolutely love it. 2/4 Rhino Warrior, 4/4 mana in Jund. Whenever you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. Yeah, this can turn Venom into a one-shot KO. Again, you are going to be utilizing a lot of creatures with a lot of power, and you're going to be flinging them. But now you get a second life to those creatures, essentially, by saying, oh, okay, I just flung you at an opponent. You're in the graveyard now all of a sudden, and yeah, Lord of Extinction, let's exile you out of the graveyard with Venom, and all of a sudden my Venom is absolutely massive. I swing, and it doubles its power and toughness until out of turn. Or sorry, I should say just power, but still, that's all that matters. Cool, hit incredibly hard, have fun. Corm the Undertaker, yet another one to consider as well. 0/5 Human Warrior for 4 mana in Jund. Plus X plus 0, XC greatest Spiderman creature cards in all graveyards. Again, you just need one in the graveyard that has a lot of power, so yeah, maybe Venom takes out the slightly smaller creatures still. When this attacks, each player mills a card. During each of your turns, may play a land and cast a spell from one cards and graveyards that are put there from libraries this turn. You're already encouraged to get a lot of things into a lot of graveyards, so you have a lot of things that Venom can devour, which is absolutely amazing. And again, you just need one thing in the graveyard, and all of a sudden, yeah, Corm is massive. You just exile the other things out of the graveyard, and Venom becomes even more massive, and you have fun with that. Finally, though, one weird one that I do want to bring up, because I actually did build a deck around this one, and you might have as well, Kenny, but in a specific way. Kenny plus Zerda, and we'll talk about Kenny really quick. Here we go. 5/5 Human Noble does all the things in the world. Red, trampled haste off turn. That's lovely with Venom, obviously. 2 mana in green, counter on target creature. 3 mana in white, target player gains 5 life. 4 mana in blue, target player draws a card. In 5 mana, get a creature out of graveyard in the battlefield under that owner's control. So this one essentially is, hey, toolbox commander that does so many things, but my favorite combination is Zerda as the actual companion. Each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability is the requirement, though, so it's like activated abilities tribal in a way. And of course, abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. It can't reduce less than 1 mana. And also, can make target player creatures not be able to block this turn, which actually can be very good for your Venom combination. Obviously, that menace. But being able to just make Venom's actual ability just cost 1 to actually just get rid of things out of graveyards and make Venom absolutely massive. Again, keep in mind, it's your opponent's graveyard, it's not just your own. Yeah, Venom can make one shot in absolutely no time with that kind of a build as well. So again, it's got a lot of potential for the right builds. Power Matter synergies, Graveyard Hate synergies, absolutely a great upgrade for the right deck out there. Moving on, Pumpkin Bombs, a very unique and very weird card. But yeah, again, because it is so unique, there's only so many of these types of effects out there, and because of that, it's going to be highly coveted for the right deck out there. An artifact for 2 mana in red. Tap, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards, put a fuse counter on it. It deals damage equal to the number of fuse counters on its target opponent. They can control this artifact. So it's kind of like Humble Defector meets built up damage resource, kind of like Group Slug, a Humble Defector in a way. It is a really cool card in that, again, it's a, like self-donating card. There's only so many ways to do that, and there's certain commanders out there that are so hungry for those cards. I mean, Blim, absolutely. 4/3 Imp with flying for 4 mana in Rakdos. Whenever it deals combat to a player, that player gains to a target permanent you control. Each player loses life in his cards equal to the number of opponents they control but don't own. So this is one that actually, again, Blim can donate other things. This one can donate itself, so it helps you add that number up quite quickly and really punish an opponent. Again, oh, you've got Pumpkin Bombs? Oh, cool. All right, awesome. Yeah, let's just hit you now all of a sudden. Because you donate to them, it's tapped. And all of a sudden you say, oh, okay, cool, now you're just discarding even more cards. You might not even have cards to actually activate Pumpkin Bombs, which can be great for you. And if they do give it back, great, cool, use it on someone else. Or yeah, exactly, if they give it to someone else, then hit that player too. So it can be a game of like toss the hot potato between your opponents hitting each other as well. Zedra the Great-Hearted, yet another one to consider as well when used properly. A 2/4 Minotaur Monk at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, draw X cards, or X the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. Again, even if you're taking damage from your Pumpkin Bombs, that doesn't really matter all that much. You're padding your life total so much, it really doesn't matter. Also, this one has pay 3 Jeskai, 3 mana in Jeskai, I should say. Target opponent gains control, target permanent you control. Of course, that's a great way to donate, but again, self-donating things can be great for Zedru too, to give you those, well, I mean, just again, absurd life gains, absurd card draw, and being able to just say, oh, here's the hot potato, all of a sudden, oh, extra value for me, thank you. Oh, you're hitting each other with it? Great, awesome. Green Marchesa, a politics commander again, one that could definitely utilize Humble Defector to great effect. Enters the battlefield, become the Monarch, Death Touch Haste, beginning of your upkeep. If an opponent is a Monarch, you get a 1/1 Black Assassin creature, Death Touch, and Haste. A very famous political commander, Eddie's political commander that I loathe playing against. I don't loathe playing against it, but I lose all the time to it. Essentially, it is a great politics commander. Again, Humble Defector works great in it because you can make deals. You can even make deals with Pumpkin Bombs too if you are good at politicking, of course. Finally, though, Valvagoth, Harem Souls, a great commander, and one that is kind of all about Group Slug in a way. Yeah, Group Slug commander can definitely utilize Pumpkin Bombs to great effect. Again, it is like card advantage / politics / hate damage all in one. 4/4 Elder Demon, Flying, Ward 2. Ward pay 2 life, I should say. When an opponent loses life for the first time during each of their turns, you get a counter on Valvagoth and you draw a card. So being able to potentially politic in a way, if you can, or, you know, just threaten opponents to the point where, like, okay, yeah, you're like very low in life, and I've got ways to put you down even further or take you out. Either you give that Pumpkin Bomb right now to that other opponent so they take some damage, and then I get to draw a card, or I'm taking you out. So yeah, kind of like politicking with a little bit of a threat in there too. So yeah, being able to, again, use it as a group slug / politic thing, you can definitely do that. And of course, just even on your turn, if you have it, okay, cool, I get to make sure that I have that loss of life taken care of. Pumpkin Bombs, again, a very interesting, very unique card, and one that can definitely see play in Commander. Definitely be a good upgrade, and again, a needed upgrade for certain commanders out there that are just waiting for this kind of unique card that again can self-donate. Finally, though, Doc Ock Evil Inventor. An 8/8 human scientist villain for 7 mana and Dimir. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes an 8/8 robot villain artifact creature to other types. Yeah, this is a, well, again, a very exciting commander. One that if you are interested in learning about how I build around it, check out the episode on that spoiler. That being said, again, as a card in the 99, most definitely an impactful card. It is quite expensive to get out, but again, its payoff can be absolutely massive. I mean, just think about, like, Sidri, Galvanic Genius. Again, kind of like one of the more OG, like, all right, 3 mana, essentially, like, vehicles commanders. It goes about vehicles in a different way. A 2/2 human artificer that has pay a blue, target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact with base power times equal to converted mana cost till end of turn. You can also give artifact creatures Death Touch and Lifelink. So this is a paid activation, kind of like a, all right, I'm going to have you crew, but instead of actually crewing it with creatures and power, I'm crewing you with mana, and now Doc Ock can just go, oh, instead of that, or, you know, on top of that, let's have you help with, you know, certain vehicles, but I'm just going to make that other vehicle over there into an 8/8, essentially, and, yeah, it's permanently an 8/8. So now, all of a sudden, you're an 8/8, and now you're going to be hitting incredibly hard. And again, because vehicles already have, like, certain keywords, again, like, say, flying, haste, you know, trample, all those kinds of things, they take advantage of that as well, with them now being creatures, and again, most likely even bigger creatures being 8/8s than they were originally. Like, your Looter Scooter is now absolutely huge, so do keep that in mind. Similarly, Edward Kenway, a 5/5 human assassin pirate for 5 mana in Grixis. Beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each tapped assassin pirate and or vehicle you control, of course. For a vehicle control deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library. Exile face down, you may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. So again, a commander that is all about vehicles in many ways, and by turning those vehicles into massive 8/8s, you can do a lot of damage with that. Speaking of that, though, Tivit Cellar Secrets. Again, a commander that is all about a different kind of artifact. 6/6 Sphinx Rogue, Flying Ward 3 for 6 mana in Esper, I was about to say Grixis. Whenever it enters the battlefield or deals combat to a player, starting with you, each player votes for evidence or bribery. For each evidence vote, investigate each bribery vote, create a treasure token while voting in votational time. Basically, most of the time, you're going to be making probably about 2 treasures and 3 clues. That being said, now all of a sudden you can turn those into heavy hitters as well. Yeah, you can do some pretty disgusting things with this combination. You can be like, oh yeah, my clue over there. Okay, now it's an 8/8. Have fun. Gross. Urza Chief Artificer, depending on the build, again, like most Artificer decks, most Chief Artificer decks, I should say, have a lot of artifact creatures, obviously. That being said, you're probably still going to have a decent amount of artifacts in the deck. Like, check your list, actually, and be like, okay, actually, you know what? I've got like 30 regular artifacts, too. Great. Again, you're going to have Mana Rocks, you're going to have other things as well. That being said, Now all of a sudden you can turn those into artifact creatures as well, thanks to your, Doc Ock inclusion. A 4/5 human artificer for 6 mana in Esper, affinity for artifact creatures, artifact creature control of menace. So again, giving that 8/8 menace is huge. On top of the game for end step, you make a 0/0 construct, artifact creature token, gets +1 for each artifact you control. Quite nice. So again, you already are about heavy hitters. You're making even more heavy hitters. So even though you already have heavy hitters, you get even more giant 8/8. So yeah, Doc Ock, Evil Inventor, not for every deck out there, obviously, but can definitely be a good inclusion in the right decks out there. I mean, again, it's an 8/8, it's a heavy hitter itself, but also, hey, all right, I also just make that mana rock that's just been lying around, or that clue that's been lying around, or that treasure that's been lying around, a massive heavy hitter for me. It's going to be quite fun just swinging that at your opponents. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.